first things first, if you're going into business and you've got this thing where, I'll let you off some money, or I'll give it to you for free, or I won't charge you much. If you're that type of person, just don't go into business yet.
I feel like a lot of sole traders build a monster, right? They get into a business because they want to have more freedom and fun and flexibility or whatever, and they build up this position where they are earning enough, to have a good life, but they haven't got the time to enjoy that.
Welcome to the Chief Aim podcast. This is your weekly dose of real experiences, insights, strategies, and action steps for entrepreneurs who want to build and are building something incredible. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm Jason Graystone.
And I'm Seb Bates.
Awesome. And this show is really about all the nitty-gritty stuff that people don't talk about too much on the Instagrams, where they're telling you to earn millions in months and how to become financially free in with no pain and no outlay, and it's all easy and all that kind of stuff. Myself and Seb, we are entrepreneurs in the thick of it, and I've built a performance business, then I've built lifestyle businesses, and Seb has built lifestyle businesses and got into performance-based businesses. And we thought when we had the idea for this show, that'd be a great place to start, because people going into business, it's like, what type of business do you create? And what we've found, or what I've found, is people's values change along the line, or their motivation change along down the line, and they've started one type of business. It's very hard to shift into the next type of business, or vice versa. And it always comes with like resentment or some kind of just they fold the whole thing, and they move on, and it's very dramatic. It doesn't necessarily need to be. So it's a great show. So if you're here, welcome. I just want you to imagine this show as like you've pulled up a coffee to have a little bit of a rant around business, and me and Seb will share our thoughts. So Seb, where do we start? I mean, it's like where do we start? Right? Why do you want to go into business?
Well, this topic was I saw a video on was it YouTube? I think it was, right, or maybe Instagram, which you put as lifestyle versus performance business, right? And then you and I started having a bit of back and forth on this, because I was basically going through it point by point, disagreeing with a lot of your stuff, and you were giving really valid points back, and I think my points were also good, and I said, look, this would have been a great chat to record, and for other people to see, because I think a lot of people they go through each of the stages we were talking about, right? Like a lot of people, they have an idea, they're a startup, it's exciting, they bring it out to market, it's a terrible product or service, they go back to the drawing board, they do that a few times, so they've got something that's slightly refined, they've got a bit of social proof, some credibility, and now they're making sales, and they've got through that first hurdle. I think gradually they work through, I know for me, I got to this point where I kind of hit a glass ceiling, right? And then broke through that and developed a lifestyle business. And now my position is like, right, cool. Did the lifestyle business, got financially free, boring. What's next, right? And I think a lot of this it depends on your character. It depends on, like we spoke about, age as well. I think depending on where you are at in your life, it might not be the right time to build a performance business. This might be the perfect time for a lifestyle business. So there's so many factors which go into it. But at the core of that conversation was, what's better? Lifestyle or performance business? So yeah, it was a really interesting chat, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think, look, before we go into I'd love to go and throw some of the pros and cons of every part of both, because there is going to be an opposing opinion on both sides, depending on where you're at in your life and your age and all the rest of it. But the start is like why you go into business in the first place, and it's really for a better financial position, to become financially free, and to have freedom, right? And to really pull the ropes. There's no kind of arguing that that's the only reason that anyone goes into business, right?
It's that first reason, right? To solve the problem of personal wealth. That typically is the reason most people go into business. And I think if that wasn't high up on the agenda, then they would just be doing a charity or something for free, right? They would just be out there doing whatever they could to help solve a problem, rather than making it commercially successful. So yeah, mission one is making it commercially successful so that it solves a problem of personal wealth for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that seems like such a simple thing, but a lot of people do seem to really struggle with charging for any type of service. And I would say, first things first, if you're going into business and you've got this thing where, oh, I'll let you off some money, or I'll give it to you for free, or I won't charge you much. If you're that type of person, just don't go into business yet. Solve that first. Solve that problem. Like, dig out what's going on there, or maybe even start a charity. Go and start a charity and partner with someone who is able to collect money, because otherwise it's just this dream that you're going to start something that's going to be big, but you will burn out. You will burn out because you need money to pay for the upkeep of pursuing that vision, and it's so important. So let's kind of. Sorry, go on.
I mean, that burnout, right, is the one word which people are terrified about building a performance business because of. It's like they're trying to avoid that burnout, and I really, if we look at, I mean, it might be useful for people listening to this if we kind of distinguish what is a lifestyle business, what is a performance business, right? So lifestyle business, it's all about freedom of time, freedom of money. You've got enough money to go and live an exciting life and spend the time you want to do doing the things you want to do without the typical constraints you've had previously in your business when you were trying to build the lifestyle business, right? You've got a team, typically a small team of sort of 3 to 10 people who are managing the business effectively. There's a lot of fun, freedom, and flexibility in the business to make creative decisions, and it typically has a family culture. It's a small, fluid team and ideas kind of move very quickly. That then changes when you go into performance, right? Performance business, more policy driven, more HR issues. Things have to be the same as wherever you do it, they have to be identical. Everything's got to be run by the book. It's a lot more restrictive in some ways. You're dealing with a much bigger animal, and you typically have a team of sort of 30 to 60, right, or much more. But the revenue's a lot higher. The impact globally tends to be a lot higher, or nationally, whatever it is you're doing. You're working with more people, impacting more lives, and ultimately in a lot of cases, leaving a greater legacy behind.
Yeah. Well, that's the ideal scenario, right?
The ideal scenario for a lot of people. I think for a lot of people, they build a monster, right? In the same way I feel like a lot of sole traders build a monster, right? They get into a business because they want to have more freedom and fun and flexibility or whatever, and they build up this position where they are earning enough, to have a good life, but they haven't got the time to enjoy that, right? And as soon as they outsource the technical delivery, guess what? They haven't got enough to enjoy. They haven't got the money to enjoy the life they've now got the time to enjoy, right? So
this is a quick shout out to the sponsor of this show, Shield, who help us deliver this podcast along with all the social media that goes with it to help us get it out to more people, which leaves us to focus on just creating more great conversations. If you want to start, delegate, or optimize your social media or podcast, or if you want to build your very own online course or program, get in touch with the team at shieldglobal.io. This is the thing. There is also like this kind of phenomenon where people cross build. So it's like they want a lifestyle business, but they focus on building it in a performance way where they have everything, like all the details in place, that then results in them not bringing in any money. They've got all the employment contracts and the systems and everything, right? But they're not actually making any sales, and they're not bringing in enough money, and then they can't keep have the upkeep of it. And then you've got people that want lifestyle business, want performance businesses, but they're treating it like a lifestyle business, taking all the money out of it, living the life too early on, and then they need staff, but they can't afford staff. They need good talent, they can't afford good talent, and there's no direction because no one's got any systems. It's very hard to employ people. So it's a much longer term, I'd say much longer term. If you do it how most people do it, it's like it's a longer term play to build a performance-based business than it is a lifestyle business. Lifestyle business, you can pretty much generate 100K, 200K in a relatively short space of time into your pocket and personal investments and all the rest of it with a small team, right? In today's day and age, if you build a brand the right way. Performance-based business, you've just got to wait a little bit. You've got to reinvest a lot more, and you've got to put that, you've got to get the machine working a little bit before you start taking the fruits, right?
I think there's I think there's a lot of benefit to actually earning each level as well, because you learn so much at each stage, right? To be a startup, to be a successful startup, it's like extreme personal development. Those early stages, right? It's like imposter syndrome, abundance, scarcity mindset, the highs and lows, overcoming all that. And then you get it out there, you build something which actually works, actually profitable. Now you're moving into a lifestyle business, and so you've earned that new level. But to go from a lifestyle to performance business, you need to learn completely new skills. And one of the cool things I heard the other day was to build a performance business, the hustler has to die for the CEO to be born, right? It's like the hustler has to die. The guy who's built the lifestyle business, who's a bit of a hustler, who can quickly make a change and sell something. You know, that's a very, very different person to the CEO, who's now got to think about a million different things. You know, funding, IP, all these various different assets, which really weren't that important back when they had a lifestyle business.
No, because I always think of Ben Francis from Gymshark. You know, he was hustling to the point where he used all of his influence and leverage and his entrepreneurial spark to build that thing to an enormous size. But then was very, he was humbled. They were like, right, you can't be CEO of this company anymore. You're just not a CEO. You can't. It's not what you're good at. And he's like, wow. And then it's like the company starts getting run not by you, but by better decisions from a mean board, an average of a board, which is looking out for the company and not you and your lifestyle.
Can you imagine what that must have felt like? Like you build this thing up from the dirt, all your blood, sweat and tears goes into it, and then basically, and the CEO position feels like the owner, right? Even though it's not, you feel like the owner of the company if you're a CEO, and I think if you remove that title, suddenly you can feel a little bit lost. I can imagine how that would feel, right? But yeah, I mean, if you've got to sit back and you're that hustler and you're not a CEO, you're not the right mindset for it, and you think, right, you've got a massive performance-based business that employs hundreds of people, you're responsible for all these people. Ultimately, if you're not the right person for the job, your job is to find someone who is a better CEO than you, right? And that would take a huge humbling experience to go through, wouldn't it?
Totally, and I think that's a great example of someone like Ben who truly did have a vision to build a performance-based business, because he took that back seat, he let it run, it then got valued at $1 billion. He's now very happy in his position. He always had this vision to take it massive and build a massive performance-based business, and that's why he's able to do that. That's kind of an example of doing it properly. But as Seb just said, if you're someone who wants the reins all the time, you're going to have to be prepared to deal with a lot of people and appease a lot of people. And, for me personally, the less humans, the better. Like, honestly, the less humans, the better for me. Because,
it was really interesting. You said that in our chat, you said that, right? It was like, you've come from a place where you've had a performance business, right? And it was like how many staff did you have before?
Like 27, and it was bricks and mortar, like hard construction.
And what was the sort of revenue point at that with that business?
About 4 million.
Right. So it's like the beginning stages of a performance business, right? And and you felt all that pressure and having to work with all these people, and it just didn't align with the things you enjoyed out of your business prior to that. For me, I'm now entering that stage, right? And it's like we've gone from a small team of 5 5 to 10 in the last kind of 3 years to a team of 50 to 60, and we're making that transition, what they call crossing the desert, right, to build a performance business. And I remember when I got to lifestyle business and I outsourced the majority of stuff, and we had good money, and it was just like, as much as I love investing, and that's great, and spending my money on holidays and doing whatever, it's like what I really enjoyed over the last decade was spending money on growing the business. It was like that was the thing I enjoyed doing, right? And so for me, I reached this point where I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to reinvest everything back in the business, grow the business, and build a performance business. Because when you said to me, why do you want to do that? It sounds like a terrible idea. I was like, well, for me, I want to see what it's capable of. I want to see what I'm capable of. I'm early 30s. I see entrepreneurship like a career. I feel like even if I build a performance business and I don't really want to have a performance business once I get there, I would have learned so much by doing it.
Yeah.
And that will benefit my life massively by going through that and becoming the person who's built a startup to a lifestyle business, to a global business with a global charity, to a performance business, and then having the courage to step away from it, knowing it's not for me, which I think does take courage. You've gone through 20 years of growth by doing that, and I think for me that's part of the entrepreneurship career. And really understanding and learning who you are as a person, and really maximizing the impact you can make, right, and the legacy you can build.
Yeah, definitely. But my first business was built out of performance, or built into the direction of a performance-based business, purely out of, because I was treating it as a lifestyle business. I basically started the business to become financially free. So it was all about, taking the money and basically growing my personal wealth. So
was it the nature of the business, like the industry, just kind of dragged it into that direction, right?
It was like a snowball. Because I won't do anything like terribly. So obviously I'm an entrepreneur, so I make all the services good, and I'm obsessed with customer satisfaction and things like that. So the company accidentally, but on purpose, kind of just got loads of word of mouth anyway, and it was like, oh crap, we need all these staff, and it was like, that was the worst thing for me, because I didn't want to do it. And although I could do it now, but it'd be very fabricated and it'd be very strategic, and I could do it, but I wouldn't want to do it. What's interesting about yours is you are an entrepreneur and you're going into performance-based business. How do you feel? What's the hardest thing for you, like, in going into performance? For me, it's team. Like, for me,
it's team. It's people. 100%. Like, marketing,
it's so inefficient.
Marketing, easy.
So
developing product services, easy. Tech, easy. Sales, easy. Systems, processes, easy. Human beings, what's going on there? Human beings are complicated.
Depends what day it is, right?
Yeah,
literally.
I mean, you can be an expert in culture. You can be an expert in. You can have incredibly high emotional intelligence, and you can onboard the wrong person, and that can be a toxic person, which influences people in your team negatively, and you can lose half your team over 6 months, and it's really difficult to manage that. I think for me,
and then there's poaching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you've got potentially competitors trying to steal your clients, and really you move from just really focusing on looking after customers to that's all easy, because that's all done and dusted. Like, your team knows how to do that, and you've got systems built around looking after your customers, because that's how you got there. The focus changes to how do you look after this small army of people who need things, and the more you give them, all they need, and it's a complex, forever moving, fluid situation. I think for me, what I'm trying to build, and I feel like we're doing it, is a lifestyle performance business. It's like the holy grail, right? It's like, can you build a business which gives you time and freedom and a good income, but also has that performance side where it's growing, it's making good revenue, it's making that global impact, and so on. And I think that the way in which that happens is you have good profit margins. I think, honestly, if you've got good profit margins, you're able, and you're not a really greedy owner of the business using it like an ATM, and you live a fairly modest life, you don't get greedy halfway through, and you're able to say, right, we've got good profit margins here, and I'm talking 50% plus, right? If you've got a business that makes 50% plus profit margins, which as you grow to performance might be tricky, you're then in a position where you can hire the right people. You can hire a decent leadership team who are there to take time and stress and energy off you, right? Who are there to put out fires and with HR and all this sort of stuff before you then have to feel like you're dealing with that stuff, right? Like, if you're trying to build a performance business and you're the one dealing with all the HR issues, it's going to feel like a huge amount of stress. But if you've got the team in place to look after that, and you've got the leadership structure in place, I think that's the way to do it. Then the other thing is funding, because I've gone through a bit of a kind of self-development phase with funding. I mean, when I first came to Dubai, we were talking about £100,000 of debt, right? It was all credit card debt. And I know I've told you this story a few times. It was like, we need to expand over there. Couldn't get any loans because I was self-employed, so I just got loads of credit cards, got all these 0% balance transfers on credit cards, and did it, and it worked, and it paid off. And we built a business that generates several million, right? And now I'm in that transition to performance, and I realise that's an expensive move. We've now taken on £1 million of debt, and it's like, but if this was a property, you wouldn't think twice about doing it, right? You buy a house for for 1.2 million, you put 200k down, you've got £1 million of debt. You would think that's totally fine. You know, we're taught that's totally fine. But with a business asset which
and
you
the
can
funniest
control,
thing, that's riskier. That's riskier because they'll take the house back.
And
Like,
even I know, I'm like, that's not risky because I can control it. I know it. It's like, you know, if you
and
buy a house,
not only that, investors give you the money for a business, and they're investing in you. And if it goes, it goes. Like you haven't got to give it back. Like it's like, well,
but even, I mean, even if I'm not even using investors for this, right? I'm using traditional loans. So if it goes, I've still got to pay it back. But for me, it's like if you were going to put 1.2 million pounds into a house, and then you wanted to sell it, whatever, a few years later, that, you know, especially in Dubai, that could have gone down, or you could have sold it at the wrong time of the market, or some economic crisis, right? Or no one wants to buy your 1.2 million pound house right now. You know, it's with a business, you've got more control over it. You know, you really, it's a situation where you've built it to a point where you're able to get that much funding. Then it's got to be in a position where it's doing all right. If it's a sound business, but it's interesting because even though I know all this stuff, you go through it and you're like, God, £1 million of debt. That's a lot. Do you really want that? But really, it's looking at debt differently, right? It's looking at debt like a tool. And something like 99% of money out there anyway is debt, and it's looking at it as a tool to grow your business, providing you're not spending it on stupid stuff like liabilities, right?
Yeah, and I would say on that point, if you are at the point where you're building a performance business and you're looking at taking on debt, like big investment, don't do it unless you're sure you've got something that you can spend it on, like that you can throw $1 million at, that you know will get you a cash positive position coming back. You know, it's something that will give you a return. Because many businesses, they think, if I only had $1 million, I'd invest that. But actually, you don't need $1 million for a lot of the businesses now.
No.
You'll struggle to spend $1 million unless you're.
Do you know what's really interesting? I was speaking to someone about this the other day, and it was like you're employed. You're going to quit your job to start a business. Would you like £500,000 right now, or £1 million in 3 years? Right? For me personally, I mean, first of all, tell me your answer. What would you choose?
I'd take the 500 grand and then $1 million in a few years.
Well, you've got to choose which one. You got both.
Oh, one or the other.
Yeah, one or the other. I'll take the lot. Do you want $1 million in 3 years, or just 500 grand now?
Oh, that's a tough one because for me,
well, you've only got 20 seconds.
I'd take the 500 grand now. I'd take the 500 grand now.
Interesting. So here's my point of view on that, right? My point of view on that is, I would take, if I was going to build a business, I'd take $1 million in 3 years. And the reason for that is, I think in those first couple of years, your product or service probably isn't going to be very good, and you're going to make loads of mistakes, right? If you're a startup, you're totally fresh. You want to make all of those mistakes in the cheapest way possible. You know, if you gave a startup 500 grand, they'll blow it all on, you know, the next shiny object and Facebook ad strategy or this or that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if I give that £1 million to someone who's been grinding and creating a lean business for 3 years, and then they get £1 million, then they're going to be putting it towards something which is more refined, and they've actually learned how to build a lean business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if it's someone who's a startup, absolutely. Yeah.
If you're completely fresh.
Where I am right now.
No. No, take the 500k now if I was you,
I could take 500k and turn it into 1.5 in a few years,
I'm sure you do something with it. But if you are completely fresh, it's you got to. I get it. It goes back to earning the levels, right? You earn those levels.
Earning the levels.
You have to earn the mistakes. You earn the experience in order to get the lifestyle business. You got to fall over 50 times. To get the performance business, you got to fall over 200 times. You know, to be able to deploy decent amounts of funds, you've got to make the mistakes. Otherwise, you'll just lose it straight away. And I know some businesses out there, you know, that have been fueled and invested in from the start, and they make so many silly mistakes, and so their profit margins are like 10% when they could have been 50% 3 years down the line. Do you know what I mean? And actually, that funding coming at the wrong time damages their business.
Yeah, and the biggest mistake that I've seen people building performance, because I'm an angel investor. I work with businesses. I'm on the board of directors, and I basically look at what goes on in some of the businesses that I invest in, because I'm happy to invest in performance-based businesses. I just don't personally want to build one right now. And one of the mistakes I see is they get to a point where they're focusing on like monthly recurring revenue, which is a fantastic idea. because it's sustainable income, but then they don't monitor the churn rate or the kind of the cap out ceiling, and then they get to a point and think we're not getting any new customers, and they just plow money into Facebook ads, and they say if only we had £1 million we could put into Facebook ads, and it's like there's no point. You're not going to get any more clients. You can't get any more clients with this churn rate. Just focus on the churn rate, and it's like wow. So going back to what you said earlier, I think sums it up lovely. Build a giant, if you want to build a performance-based business, think of it as a giant lifestyle business, but just spend the extra time and get the payoff later. Or if you're building a lifestyle business, build it as if it was a performance-based business, so that it's just free of your time and your space. Have all the systems, build all the systems, but then accept that it's a lifestyle business. And then honestly, you build a brand around it. You put your social influence out there, and you get up to something bigger than just the business itself, which, I know your business does, my business does too. And all the businesses that we see succeed, all have a message beyond making money, beyond the business. And as a byproduct of that, you'll just attract the best talent. You'll be able to pay the best talent. You'll be able to scale. You'll be able to seek investment. You'll be able to negotiate contracts. You'll be able to sell. And it's just much, much easier to build a brand-led business, regardless of lifestyle performance. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people, they get to that point where they build a lifestyle business and they just want the challenge, right? They want the challenge, and so they make the change. They achieve the big goal. The big goal was to get through the glass ceiling of the startup stage, to build that lifestyle business, to get the money and the freedom. And then it's, I felt this level of boredom. I was a bit like, well, what am I capable of? And I think a lot of people get to that stage. And here's the thing, right? I think one of the things that's really helped me, especially if you're an entrepreneur looking at this, is to have a very long-term view over what you're doing. A lot of people, they're fighting this whole personal wealth game, and so they think very short-term. Yeah. When really, if you just think about the big picture of what it is you're doing, and that again is aligned to what you said about a purpose beyond making money. I think if you have a longer term view of your career as an entrepreneur, don't see it as I've just started this little business and it's going to give me money and then I'm going to be free. See it as I'm an entrepreneur by nature. This is my career. What's going to level me up in my career? What do I want to achieve out of that career? And to do that, you need a long-term view. When you have a long-term view, just look at the stock market, right? You zoom out. You don't get fascinated with the highs and lows. You don't get obsessed with that low and that high. You've got a much longer-term view. You're more balanced. You're more poised. You're able to have a calmer approach, a more centered approach to kind of your journey as an entrepreneur. So I think regardless of whether you go for lifestyle or performance, I think zooming out and having that centered approach is
amazing. I 100% agree, as you know. And I would say one of the things you just touched on that I just want to touch on is, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming and you get stuck in the mud and you're trying to figure it out, and then you start thinking, what about that crypto thing? What about that? And you try and get out of it, right? But think about this. What's quicker? Learning how to trade or invest in the stock market, or go and learn some new thing that's going to give you passive income, or just solving the little problem in your business that can just free you of that time? Maybe it's a system that will take you a week to build. Maybe it's a system that will take you 3 months to build. But guess what? That's going to be a lot quicker than just trying to blow a load of money on crypto and learn and all that kind of stuff.
That's such good advice. That's such good advice. I think as a business owner, one of the things that you teach in the Tears of Freedom program, right, is to really become the expert in whatever area you speculate in, right? So obviously with Tears of Freedom, you've got several layers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and so on. And the top tier is speculation, and this is typically the highest risk level. To do that, you need to be the expert in that, right? So if property is your game, you can speculate with that. If crypto is your game, you're an expert in that, so speculate with that. If stocks and shares are really your game and you really love it, and studying businesses and you really want to pour all your time and effort and energy into that, then that's just speculation. But typically for most business owners, my point of view is your speculation is your business, right? If someone was going to give me lots of money, I would invest it in my business because I can control it and I understand it. I probably wouldn't put it into the shiny object syndrome down the road, or invest it in this, or your mate down the pub saying, let's flip properties together or whatever. You know, I try and keep my investments very, very safe and boring because I know that I take risks with the business.
We've had this conversation so many times, and your business is a speculation because in the grand scheme of things, unless you're a large cap stock, you're a blip in the ocean, and that is a volatile speculation, your whole business. So, play that if you play it well. So look, just to round up, mate, I think for people listening, I hope they've got value from this because it is as real as it comes. Both of us agreed that team are the hardest to implement and build. So I'm sure that 95% of the people watching this particular show agree, and they're struggling. So one tip or a couple of tips to build team.
Tips to build team. I mean, I would say, first of all, ask, don't guess. I feel like a lot of people just guess what people want. They guess what their customers want. They guess what their team want. They guess what their wife or husband wants, rather than asking and then building the solution around that. I would sleep on decisions. I feel like a lot of people react emotionally when they're having to deal with an HR decision, for instance. Sleeping on decisions makes a huge impact. It gives the other person a chance to think, you a chance to think, and to come up with a more logical point of view. I would paint a picture for anyone that comes on board with you. When you really paint a picture of the next 5 years for someone that's inspiring, they really grow into the role.
Certainty.
Yeah, rather than saying, here's the normal job and that's it for the next year, really paint a picture of the next 5 years and they'll have more faith and trust in you as a business owner. So those three things for me, I think are
amazing.
One thing I just got to jump into that though before is I've made so many mistakes with hiring people that I would just say I bet you were about to say I think do your due diligence, right? Phone up that reference, even if you're growing quickly. Phone up every reference. Any red flags, just don't do it. Really be very, very careful when you bring people on.
Fire, slow, fire fast, right?
Sorry.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just making sure that there's a responsibility when you bring someone new into the team because they influence the team. And if it's the wrong person, they can do so much damage to your business. So bringing on the right people from the very beginning is your responsibility, right?
Yeah. Cool, man. I think that's great points. I would just add one more, and that is, what we found to be very effective is to employ people on values, on alignment of values, and see if you can negotiate a deal that shows them how they're going to get what they want by giving you more of what you want. Because ultimately, people just go to work for them; they don't go to work for you. And if you can negotiate a deal showing them what's in it for them, as you just said, a 5-year plan. They're gonna stay. There's no need to go. And then the important thing is you review that because people's priorities change. People have babies, people have kids, people have terminal illnesses and recover from them, or they recover from illnesses that changes their value system. And you want to just make sure that you're keeping on top of that because obvious reasons. So
yeah, definitely.
That's what I would add. And that's it. I hope you got value from this show, guys. Let us know in the comments. Any tips? What we want to do on this show is make this little community a business mastermind. So if you've got any tips you want to share, if you want to add anything to the conversation, me and Seb are going to be here every week doing this, and we'd love you to invite you into the conversation. So till next time, thanks guys, and we'll catch you then. Take care. If you're enjoying these podcasts, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're really getting value from these, we'd really love it if you could let us know on our review page. We'll see you next week.